Okay, ladies, I think we can start as well. So thank you all for joining in. I know everyone's balancing many different priorities right now, and it's great to have this wonderful mix of all three of you because I think you'll bring such varied perspectives to the discussion. So Dipali, Kalki, and Ameera, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Dipali, should I start? Okay. Well, you have your coffee, Kalki. I'll start with you then. I think for the longest time, and since we're focusing today on really how this is going to impact women at work, how work from home is going to perhaps change things going forward, a lot of women have struggled with guilt their entire lives while trying to manage work and home. Do you see that probably changing now?
So that's for me, Aabha?
Hello? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, so you were saying, I get the last part of the question.
Sorry, started coughing. So a lot of women have struggled so much with these feelings of guilt to manage raising children and working at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you think in the current environment, since everyone's working from home, people are anticipating that this may become the new normal? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Aabha, I felt like that's the only way for me to keep sane, to assume that this is the new normal. Because we keep waiting for that lockdown to finish or that, that deadline to come. We kept waiting after 15 days, then we've waited another 15 days and etc. Now, if we keep waiting that way, I think we'll go crazy. I think it's really important for me, at least, to start treating this as the norm. So, I mean, literally things like in the first 10 days, I treated this like a holiday. Like, oh, I'll be in my pajamas. I don't need to, I'm nursing my baby. I don't need to do anything. But now that it's gone on for more than a month, I'm like, okay, I need to start doing something with my mind. Otherwise, I'm going to go insane. So, starting to do a bit of reading, a bit of writing, and just note working for myself because it is kind of the new norm. Yeah.
Okay.
And wearing better clothes and not just in your pajamas.
Yeah, absolutely. Dipali, what about you in terms of you're managing such a huge workforce? So even from that point of view, is it throwing up new challenges with, and since we're talking more about women today, in terms of perhaps staff expecting more leniency currently or more empathy, whichever way you want to see it?
Aabha, empathy is going to be more important and prominent as we go forward. And before this, as we were speaking, Ameera said that, I've been counseling the teams. I think it's going to be important. These are tough times and resilience will play a long role in it. And so for all of us, I think the EQ as leaders is becoming important. So now when we talk about women, and also let me just add on here for everybody that world's not going to be the same ever again. Yeah. It's changed for good. It's changed. So like for a traditional company like us as Welspun, where, we were working, office was kind of a norm, coming in kind of whatever time, like 10 to 5 or 10 to 8 or 10 to 7. Now we're talking about working virtually. So that's becoming a norm for all of us here now. Like Slack or MS Teams, Google Hangouts, Zoom is becoming a norm. We are, I think we've had an upsurge of around 317% in our learning. We have these webinars and learning for all our employees to upskill themselves. So even for women, I think, I think it's about how you work. It's about drawing your boundaries and being disciplined. And that's what we've taken on. So we actually are working like that, all of us at Welspun. So it is like it's every day is the same. It's kind of it's a day as if we go to work. Yeah. So I think for all of us, that's where it is. Yeah.
So Ameera, a lot of women are taking that forward, because I've also been hearing chatter. Some are saying that organizations are not as empathetic. They're saying that, you're just, now that you're online, you're expected to be online pretty much all the time, and that's not always possible when you're managing, all your household responsibilities by yourself.
Yeah. So, I think, this is not only going to be a time which we, like Dipali said, is going to change our lives forever, but it's also going to change businesses forever. It's going to differentiate, businesses which are going to survive in the longer term and businesses which are going to perish in the short term because of the circumstances and the challenges. There are organizations who will feel the financial pain and the economic challenges and will feel the need to do pay cuts in the short term. And I think one of the things that we all have to think about is that as organizations, we are probably stronger than the individual employee is on their own. That salary means more to them than probably does as a company. Now, these are going to be some hard choices that we make. I think the companies who actually are looking at the longer term, who are able to survive with stronger balance sheets, who are able to take care of their employees, provide comfort, reassurance, understanding, empathy, and still expect performance from the employees, I think are going to be the ones that are really going to land up consolidating their industries. And there are going to be many unorganized players or people who are looking only at the short term, which possibly are going to perish. I think this is going to be a time when employees are going to judge their employers and vice versa to see how this entire crisis was handled. And this will end up becoming a big differentiator in my mind within industries.
Yeah. And just to Ameera's point, I think, Aabha, I can just add on, this is the time also for the organizations to relook at their business models. The businesses will change for whatever it is. It's going to be very, very different. Like, for instance, for us at Welspun, health and hygiene will become very, very important. I think so, creating products accordingly. For us right now, we are making masks. So, yeah, interesting. Very, very interesting.
Kalki, in your industry, when it comes to the movie entertainment business, how is that coping with the new normal as well, and how does that impact actors' choices?
I mean, I think it's going to take a very hard hit. I think it's going to take a long time for any of us to go back to set. However, when it comes to entertainment, I also think online entertainment is picking up in a big way because of this. And I'm finding more and more sort of webinars and people who want me to perform online or do some sort of online interaction with people. So I think it's again a shift in our thought, a shift in how we, the other day I just did a Zoom with friends and read a play together. We just read a play together just to like activate that sense of creativity again. And I think that we're going to have to find new ways, we have these online live Instagram communities like Community that does like poetry readings and storytelling. And I think, we're going to have to look at that.
I think, Ameera, you're of course at the, in the midst of all of this. So apart from the fact that, of course you're dealing with, whatever an organization would go through while managing this crisis, you're also in the healthcare space, as you mentioned. Do you find that employees perhaps post this want or are already asking extra standards of health, hygiene, for women in particular? Does it mean that, they'd want, definitely if they were to come back to a physical workspace, that perhaps their demands would change?
See, being part of essential services in healthcare, to be honest with you, we've anyway had to employ those, health and hygiene as a part of our DNA at a very early stage, right? So for us, it's not that much of a change. And I think with any change, we all resist it initially. And then we learn to embrace it. And I think that's the journey that all of us are going to go through as individuals as well as companies. If we look at this 2 years from now, I think we'll all turn back and say, hey, that was a great catalyst that made us live our lives differently. If each of us could spare the average 2 hours that we spend in travel in a city like Bombay or Delhi or any other place, 2 to 3 hours, if we could utilize more that time to spend with our families and our close ones, help, people take better care of our own health and our employees' health, I think we'll feel like this change was definitely for the better. But obviously it's painful at this point of time. I do think companies are going to go through a mindset shift as far as health. But the problem is that when these things happen, it sparks this alertness amongst us, and then when things become normal again, we all go back to the same old, where we start looking at cost cutting and we think, oh, health is not so important, and it doesn't really matter. So I think the longer the pain, I think the more we will remember it post. I really hope that organizations take this as an opportunity to really care for the health of their employees, because that is really our biggest asset. We don't care for it enough often.
I agree.
Dipali, I can see all kinds of expressions that you're going through. I can see there's a lot that you've been dealing with, and you also handle staff at the factories, for example, for whom it's going to be critical. Like Ameera was saying, everyone's going to be judging their employees. So what are the kind of things that particularly women employees are asking for or want to know that they're safe or that they can come back to work? And, or perhaps even say we don't want to come. Why can't we just work from home now that we know it's an option?
So Aabha, for me, I think importantly, my factories are the epicenters of action for us at Welspun. Yeah. So for me, we have the colonies where the people live, women and workers, all sorts. So we actually have taken a lot of precautions, and I agree to Ameera that I think as employers, people are our assets, and we have to take care of them. So what are we doing about it is very, very critical. I'll just give you little examples of what we have taken on as initiatives. We've actually made our cities actually as walled. We have made our, the whole, like the Welspun city has become a walled city. Okay. So like people who come in are thermal screened, and people who come in from outside are quarantined for 14 days. Mm-hmm. So we have like an isolation ward for 90 people, 200 quarantine homes. So all that is taken on. Robotic kind of a doctor, which, we can consult anywhere in the world, sanitize driveways, disinfectant tunnels. So I think this bit, and staggered attendance at the factories. So all that will come into kind of a way of in the way we'll work anymore. And we have actually made a complete compliant kind of a manual now. That will become a norm as we go forward. So as I earlier also said, that the world is changing, and it's changed for good forever, Aabha, So, but employees are going to be an important part of our complete way of working.
Kalki, but does this, like you were talking about earlier, does this then mean, like if it's becoming difficult to go on sets, we're doing online things now, but what about later, and also, in the movie industry, do you think people will take it as seriously to perhaps, think about employees' mental health, their anxiety, their kind of concerns with coming back onto crowded sets, for example, and can women perhaps, it's an industry where women can't, or actors perhaps can't really avail of the work from home option so easily.
Yeah. I think that I hope that it will bring a new consciousness in terms of how we treat all our members on set. I think that, there's always been this sort of elitism in the industry of keeping the actors and the director and, the heads of departments in a very different place from the other crew. And I think it's really important that we take care of that crew. And also probably think about having less people on set, because I remember a French documentary wanting to document Bollywood. So they came here to shoot, and they were just amazed by the fact that there's like 300 people on set, and I think that if you look at filmmaking in a place like France, you have a set of 40 people. A crew 40 people. So thinking about that is probably gonna happen. It's probably something that we need to look at.
Okay, so changing dynamics there. Ameera, do you see this as something? Do you see work from home as something that will open up more opportunities for women because you now have some amount of flexibility, or do you see it actually increasing the difficulties for women because they're struggling to cope, dealing with children and chores and all the rest of it?
I think it will definitely open up more opportunities, Abha, because I think if you actually look at the statistics for women in the workplace,
Yeah.
I think one of the big challenges, and usually we've seen large percentages of women drop out when one, they get married, second, when they have children. And a lot of that happens because they have to manage the work home responsibilities and then the travel and the working in the office. And I think sometimes before they face the challenges, they just say, okay, let this, forget this, it's not worth it. So I think if they have the option to save that travel time, I think if they have the option with some flexibility, I mean, if you see in the digital, recently in the digital world, there have been so many opportunities to work as freelancers, whether it's as a blogger, whether it's in the creative space, as a writer, that I think a lot of women have chosen to take that path. And, not only women, men. I mean, I was talking to the head of one of the top investment banking firms, and he was saying his office is literally 100-meter walk from his house. And he said, you know what, I'm going to stop going to the office 2 days a week, right? Because if I can work productively from home and I can still have breakfast and lunch and dinner with my kids at home, why not?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to change not only the way the women work, but I think a lot of men are going to say, there's something to this and let me figure out a new way of working. And I'm really hopeful that as it open up opportunities for women, we can see more rise of women in the workplace. I mean, it's such a sad situation that we see such few women at the top of companies. Of course, it's even fewer as entrepreneurs, but even very few as professionals, right? So that would be a very welcome change. And if Corona is the catalyst to do that, then hell, good thing, like we said, come out of it.
Agreed. Kalki, do you see the same applying to the film world?
It's harder to tell because I think that again it's such a it's such a physical activity that you need to be interacting with other human beings. It's not online work when it comes to performance and shooting. Having said that, I have a friend right now who's working on a script which she's discussing with me to act in, where we all shoot ourselves from our homes. So,
Interesting. Yeah.
She's sitting at home writing the script and we're all going to shoot it ourselves. And who knows what kind of filmmaking we're going to get out of that. But at least that stimulation is there for us to create in a different way.
Yeah, and do you see perhaps, I mean, I know there are schedules and budgets and so forth, but do you see perhaps the producers or directors being more empathetic, let's say, to,
I really hope so. I think that what has been seen, at least from my, colleagues in the industry, is that people are sharing the workload at home. They have to, especially because a lot of people don't have house help. So, you are getting men posting about their cooking and, how they burnt themselves because it's the first time they looked at a bengan in a pan of frying oil or whatever it is. So I think it's fantastic if we start appreciating the kind of invisible work that happens at home, from looking after children to cleaning the house and to making sure that the groceries are always in stock. These are things that, I think a lot of people who went out to work never even thought of. They just came home and dinner was ready. So I think it's a fantastic time for that sort of stereotype male patriarchy to be broken.
Well, we hope so anyway. We hope that we're going to see more of it. Dipali, do you think, that just taking off further from that we will see more opportunities for women? Or, I mean, does the gender debate from here on get better, or does it actually get worse? Because, some women are claiming that everything is just coming on them at home. So it's not actually making it any better. On the other hand, as Ameera was saying, perhaps there will be new opportunities that will emerge.
So it's both ways, I think, Aabha. One thing important I think we have seen at Welspun as well is getting the peers to respect. I think that's something, when we talk about gender diversity, important is also how the peers respect you and how that whole space is, conducive to the female, worker or the female, I think the team member. And I think that's where the important aspect comes in. And these are all small nuances to how, how far is the toilet, how far, how can women work in the night shift, to, how are we looking at women in our, kind of in metros, how are they working? So, at the workplace is very important, and at the home as well. I think if men start, as Kalki said, that, more and more men have started cooking, because women will have to work when they have to work. And I know, a lot of our Welspunites are working, a lot of women are working, but men will also have to contribute. And I think it is going to be, it gradually should be evolving to an equal world. And I hope so, hopefully faster.
I love that you're all saying this. So, it's just what we want to hear. And I really do.
Well, I want to use an example. I have, apart from having a little baby, I also have my 12-year-old brother staying with me, because my father and his wife are abroad, and he was in boarding school, and suddenly, of course, the lockdown happened and he couldn't travel to them. They couldn't travel back. So he was sent here. So I see this kid who was 12, and, he's never washed a dish before. He didn't know how to make chai, and now this has been about a month, right? So now he's doing all of it as much as the rest of us at home. And I think, if our children at an early age start to see this as normal, to contribute in the house, then that's what it takes to contribute to gender equality in the workplace. The problem is that there are enough empowered women going out and working, but the men are not ready for it, or don't have the mentality to deal with it, because they've grown up in homes where the mother was cooking or looking after them. So I think that is what we need to see. We need to see that change happening, educating the boy child as much as the girl child.
No, but whether this is going to land up just being fun anecdotes for men to go and tell their friends that I also know how to now fry a bengan, and I also know how to make chai, or whether it'll actually change into a habit, I think will be really the question mark. I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm not sure how much it'll change into the habit, but I really hope, like Kalki said, it does impact the next generation. When they have seen their fathers, take on some of the things, even if it's for the short time. But yeah, we're gonna hear lots of stories of men doing housework and how they contributed for many months to come.
A lot of people, some of the women are saying, we are having to schedule our children's lives from morning to night, so deal with classes and house chores, and then anything else that you need, from food to classes, etc. And they're saying, but we're not allowed to be tired. Whereas the men are dealing with financial stress, so-called, or business stress, so-called. And so they're allowed to sit in front of the TV, have a beer, chill, because they're allowed to be stressed, so, those are the kind of equations that I think people are battling with. Ameera, there's a question that's coming for you. You're a new mom as well. How are you managing to run a lab chain that has permission to test for COVID? What are some of the challenges? And during this COVID wartime, how difficult has it been to balance both your babies, both of them? Yeah.
So, look, the challenges have been immense. Like you rightly said, Aabha, one is the challenges Metropolis has faced like every other organization in terms of employees, financials, your revenue is depressed, you have cost to manage, how strong are you as an organization, and how do you make yourself strong enough to manage? So I think that's one piece of it. The second piece of it has been being in the front of essential services. Personally, I've been involved, working very closely with the government to create the policy for corona treatment and testing. So, immediately as soon as I came out of the hospital, like I said, 2 days after, I was on calls 8 to 12 hours a day trying to work on these policies with the government. We had conference calls back to back. Then it went into once we got the approvals, which was around 23rd, 24th of March, then actually getting my organization ready operationally, in terms of all of those things. We had no supply chain of materials. We didn't have manpower who was willing to go and do the testing. There was, full lockdown of cargo and domestic flights, so you could transport samples. So there were all kinds of challenges. Employees were beaten up when they were going to collect samples from patients' homes because the domestic law and order situation was chaotic. So we really had a challenge pretty much every hour. and how as a team we had to get through those challenges. Then of course we faced the Supreme Court challenge where they said now do all tests free of cost. So that was chaotic. Then we worked with the Supreme Court and the government to see whether that could be reversed. So that took a few days. And overall, I mean, there's just been, there's been a lot of chaos between what the center wants, what the city wants, what the state wants. Each of them have their own plans and goals and agendas. So, there's been a lot of chaos in managing all of that as well. I think as a new mom, to be honest with you, my baby has been my respite from all the craziness of the day.
Right.
The 8 to 10 times a day that I'm feeding is probably the only peace I get. Just to be with him and to be in that space of mind where I can be in the present and not be constantly worrying 24 hours a day about something that's going wrong somewhere. And the biggest worry at this whole time has been, the safety of my employees. I mean, we're asking them to go out there and expose themselves to COVID positive patients. How do we take care of them? And I think that's been one of our biggest accomplishments to date, that not a single one of the Metropolitan employees has become COVID positive. So I think it's been a real experience. The last 45 days, I feel like I've lived 10 years and 45 days. But genuinely, I think my kid has given me more than I've given him so far.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really lovely. Dipali, Dipali, I know that you have grown-up children. Yes.
Not children, young women, I said.
She was very worried beforehand. But I just also let me get your just summary on how you've been having to deal with all of this. I mean, I think a lot of people have been talking about empathetic women leaders around the world who've been making very strong choices at a time like this, from Jacinda Ardern, for example, to others, and how they've really stood out as people to look up to, which is a great sign, especially as we're coming out of the or in terms of something that's coming out of this crisis. Share with us your experience as well.
So I think my experiences about, these times, Aabha, for me, I have been working 9 to 9 and, I've been talking to my customers globally all the time, because this is the time, and as, Ameera also pointed out, the markets are depressed. The uncertainty is prevailing everywhere. You don't know what the world is going to be looking like after some time, how the businesses models are going to be changing. So at the moment, relooking at what we are doing, evaluating everything from a manpower cost to the better ways of working at the factories to how our strategies and the product, will be looking like, after this is all that's working on. But along with that, I think I have these two young women, who keep me entertained. One of them actually has a small startup called Cool Kanya, which actually takes care of, which actually is a freelancers community. So giving a platform to them and how they are working. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see that happening that side. And so I'll tell you one thing. At our home, we all get to work at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Oh my God.
So my younger one gets to work at 8:30. My older one may be getting to work at 11, and my husband as well. So it's like a work thing. It's an office at work. So that's the way we all are working. And in the evenings we meet for dinner, and we discuss our work and what has happened. So it's an interesting time, Aabha. But we have been there for each other, because sometimes it tends to get frustrating. Exercise has been a respite for me, and had great workout sessions with my younger daughter. So it's been that way good journey so far.
Lovely. And Kalki, for you, I mean, you are someone who's embraced, motherhood. You've shared a lot of, the experience. We see it on social media. But, in terms of how you envision things to come, like what would be an ideal for women, for moms, a lot of whom, are also looking to all of you ladies today, to kind of lead the way.
Yeah, I think that, firstly, this motherhood thing, my God, it's hard. It's really hard. You're on call 24/7 for your baby, and it's incredible. I love it. I love how she's she's gives me so much, but at the same time, in the first 2 weeks where I was not sleeping at all, I was just exhausted. I was like, I suddenly had 10 times more respect for women than I already do. But I think that very importantly is that we have to share the load at home. I don't think that I see how my partner is involved with our baby, with Sappho, and I think it's really, really important that men have paternity leave, for example, in the same way that women have maternity leave. I think, that's still such a rare thing or an exceptional thing to have men take time off when a baby is born. And I think that, really sharing that not only will of course make the load less for women, but will make men realize how important that is and how much their, contribution in the home or to their child will also give back to them. I think that many times, men are seen as like these, they have to go out and do all the work and support everybody, but they don't realize how much they get back from raising kids. And I think that we need to see the value of the work at home, what I call this invisible work. I think it has to be recognized, and I really hope that this time will allow for a lot of family members to recognize the, what we can learn from our children and from being around them and interacting with them.
I think that's one thing that's definitely coming through in what all of you are saying, and it's again heartwarming to hear that, given that we're all at home right now, and it's I think it just highlights the importance of family and being together. Ladies, thank you so much. I know that it's a difficult time between your responsibilities as moms and managing businesses and work. So thank you for taking the time out today. It was great speaking with all of you.
Thank you. Aabha. Thank you.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Bye, Dipali. Bye, Kalki.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.